Tonight, the White House remains insistent that an immigrant that they mistakenly deported to a brutal foreign prison is not coming back to the U.S. Open defiance of a Supreme Court ruling directing the Trump administration to facilitate his return from El Salvador.
The White House just got caught lying. Again. But this time, they weren't just bending the truth, they were trying to digitally rewrite it. A deportation, a fake margarita, and a man trapped in one of the most brutal prisons in the world. What started as a quiet court ruling turned into a political firestorm, and the deeper you look, the darker it gets. 1. A midnight decision that changed everything. At 1 a.m., the Supreme Court issued a surprise reversal on a key deportation case. It gave the administration the green light to deport, even as legal questions piled up. For Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, it was déjà vu. She wasn't just angry, she was stunned, because the case involved Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a man quietly removed from U.S. oil, under questionable circumstances. The ruling wasn't unanimous. Even the few justices who pushed back seemed alarmed. But it wasn't the legal drama that set social media on fire. It was what came next. 2. The post that backfired. Hours later, the official White House account posted a picture, a slick photo meant to make it look like Abrego was living it up in El Salvador, sipping margaritas with a smile.
As we continue through Holy Week, my heart aches for my husband, who should have been here leading our Easter prayers. Instead, I find myself pleading with the Trump administration and the Bukele administration to stop playing political games.
At first glance, it was just another political stunt. But then people started digging. Congresswoman Crockett wasn't having it. Childish, she called it. Cruel, and worse, an outright confession that the administration was mocking a man they'd unlawfully deported. But the implications went even further than trolling.
I don't know that I was convinced that he was alive. Who are we and where are we living and who is running this country? Because the level of childness that we saw in this post, but also just the level of cruelty and the level of admission that we've seen.
3. Contempt of court. The photo might end up as evidence. That's how bold the move was. Crockett said it herself. This could land in a contempt hearing. Because when a court says do not deport, and you not only do it, but publicly brag about it, you're not just bending the law, you might be blowing right through it. And that's where people started asking who's actually advising this administration. Or do they just not care anymore? 4. The senator who went straight to the source. While the administration played games online, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen booked a flight to El Salvador. His goal? Find Kilmar, see if he was still alive. Because at that point, no one knew for sure. He found him. Barely. In a prison no one was supposed to see. Under conditions no one was supposed to know about. And that's when this story went from disturbing to sickening.
He told me, and this was yesterday, that 8 days ago, so I guess 9 days ago from today, he was moved to another detention center in Santa Ana, where the conditions are better. But he said despite the better conditions, he still has no access to any news from the outside world and no ability to communicate with anybody in the outside world. His conversation with me was the first communication he'd had with anybody outside of prison since he was abducted.
5. What Kilmar told him from inside Siko prison isn't just locked down, it's sealed off. No outside contact, no communication, no explanation. Kilmar had no idea anyone was fighting for him. No idea his name was making headlines. No idea a US senator had flown across borders to bring him back. He described cells packed with 100 prisoners. Roll calls shouted through cement walls. Guards who never explained why he was there or how long he'd stay. And then came the bombshell. 6. They're paying us to keep him here. Van Hollen didn't get vague answers. He got something worse. He asked El Salvador's vice president why Kilmar was being held. No charges, no crime, no process. The answer: because the Trump administration is paying us to keep him here. Let that sink in. A US citizen, or someone protected under US law, was ripped from his life, shoved into a foreign prison, and essentially rented out like a political pawn. 7. Margarita Gate. The photo that lied. Remember that Margarita photo? Van Hollen exposed the whole thing. He said when he sat down with Kilmar, there were only glasses of water on the table. Then suddenly, staff placed 2 mysterious glasses with sugar-rimmed edges in front of them. No one drank them. They were untouched. But the White House posted the photo anyway, zoomed in to make it look like Kilmar was having the time of his life. Problem is, the glasses still had untouched rims. No sips, no sugar missing, just props. It was a digital illusion designed to discredit the man they deported, to make it look like he wasn't suffering, when in fact, he was rotting in one of the harshest prisons in the world.
As we were talking, one of the government people came over and deposited 2 other glasses on the table with ice, and I don't know if it was salt or sugar around the top, but they look like margaritas. Let me just be very clear. Neither of us touched the drinks that were in front of us.
8. Where are the Democrats? While Crockett, AOC, Bernie Sanders and Van Hollen are speaking out, too many elected Democrats are doing the opposite. They're staying quiet, afraid of the optics, waiting on a focus group. But this isn't about politics. It's about due process, about human rights, and it's about calling out an administration that's now been caught staging photos, mocking deportees, and possibly violating international law.